I've been making videos for 16 years, and for a good chunk of that journey, I felt lost in the sea of creators struggling to stand out. I found myself following trends and copying styles, only to feel like I was losing my creative voice. Now, people often say to find your own style and to just be yourself, but how do you even do it? Where do you even start? Now, if you're going through the same struggles that I did, then I'm happy to tell you it's actually not that hard to find your own unique style. I'm gonna share the 5-step process that has helped me redefine my style after spending 12 years unhappy with a style that I naturally developed. I'm now in a creative direction that has me feeling more fulfilled than I ever did, and I wanna help you get there. Because once you find your unique style, you can overcome the biggest challenge in today's digital era, which is to stand out and make your work instantly recognizable, especially when the internet is saturated with videos from millions and millions of creators. It also helps increase engagement because viewers are more likely to engage with videos that feel fresh and original. But most importantly, it makes the creative process so much more enjoyable as you experiment, take risks, and learn new techniques. Whether you're a filmmaker, video creator, or video editor, this is for you. Whether you're just starting out or you're redefining your style, this is for you. If you start taking action right now, I promise that you'll see results much sooner than you think. So we're first going to explore everything that you like through a mind map. This is where we begin to uncover what truly excites you and lays the foundation for your unique style, because there's no one else in the world that will like all of the exact same things that you do. So grab a pen and paper, and in this case, I'm just using a digital blackboard. So just like what we see here, we want to first start completely empty. Let go of any preconceptions about what's trending or what a great video is supposed to look like. Forget about what you think you should be creating based on other people's success. This is about you. When you first start empty, you make room for thoughts that are relevant to what you like. Now, write down everything that you like everything. This includes hobbies, passions, or different fields of art. And you don't have to be good at these things or even know how to do them. The key here is to identify what you enjoy engaging with. So start by writing interests. There's our central core bubble. And the most obvious one here is filmmaking. Excuse my terrible writing, but some other things I like is music. Also like anime, or some other things I like graphic design, or just design in general. I like magic. Magic has been a long time hobby of mine. I like playing video games. I guess I like to learn as well. Right, so we got a few interests over here, and the idea is to get as granular as possible. So you break down each of these elements, no matter what your interests are. So in this case, let's go further into music. So I like listening. I can't produce music, but I do really enjoy watching YouTube videos and TikToks about musicians who break down their music that they produce, just show that I have an interest in it. And I do also play piano, so I'll put in playing as well. That way we're really articulating what we like. And what do I like listening to? I like listening to EDM. I can even break that down a little bit further. House. Another one I like is drum and bass. Now for each big bubble here, I recommend branching out into at least 3 branches, but if you can't come up with something on the spot or you're stuck on one of them, that's totally okay. You can always revisit back on it later. This is your mind map, and really just remember that there's no time pressure and there's no wrong answers here. What you want to do is make sure that you're writing down the things that genuinely interest you and excite you. So I'm going to try breaking down a little more of each section. And in this example, when I'm writing down anime and I write down the action genre, I can actually branch out into certain things that I like about the action genre of animes. Like, do I like the impact frames, the sakuga, which is, I believe, a term for like talking about the fluidity of the animation. Like, these are things that I notice and I can always take and carry over into my own work as an element later. Let's zoom out and take a look at what we have. So I tried to not take too much time just for demonstration purposes, but like I said, you want to get as granular as possible for each one of them, because these will be the fuel for what will make you unique later. So we'll talk a little more about that later. But once you have all of this over here, you want to start focusing in the area that you actually want to improve in. So in this case, filmmaking. This is going to be a really big section. Filmmaking is such a big world with lots of different areas of focuses and different roles. So in this case, I'll write something like video, and then we'll do something like movies. And under video, we can write something like, directing, like this, editing, And the reason that I'm breaking them down is because there may be directors in the video creation aspect that I admire for certain reasons that are not the same as directors that work on narrative films. I'll provide some more examples, and that'll also help you kind of get into my mind of where my sources of inspirations are. So in movies, I also like the directing in it, like the cinematography. So for you, if you're just an editor, then you may branch more into the editing aspect of things. In this case, I'll just write directing, and it could be your favorite directors or specific techniques from directing, or just different aspects or specific pieces of work. In the commercial world, some of the people that I really like is Ian Pons Jewel. You can even write the things that I like about him. Wide angles, wacky themes, has some futuristic elements in some of his work. He's actually a multidisciplinary artist who does like concept art and VFX, everything really. But I like his video style and directing style in his work. The grittiness, flashy visuals. And I'll write one more director that I look up to. I think I put an extra squiggle in there for the M. But this isn't a spelling contest, and I like very similar things from him that kind of cross over with some other creators like Ash Thorpe, for example. Like, I really like the grittiness. I like how his narratives are very character driven. He also had some works that are like very big, I guess, dynamic lights. And I can share some of the differences that I enjoy from directors in narrative films over videos. So for example, in Bong Joon-ho's directing, he does mixed genres. So the way that he's able to shift the tone from like comedy to suspense to drama is very masterful, and I've been influenced by his work. Something I like about Fincher is it's a very particular thing where he uses the camera to lock onto a character and their movement, so it tracks their movement. So these kind of like little quirks and nuances specific to these directors or, you know, genres of things that you like, they can potentially influence your own work. I'm gonna zoom out and hopefully you understand the point here. One of them is going to be more developed than the others, but honestly, I think that if all of them can be as developed as the one that you're focusing on, that's how you create a richer mind map with a bunch of your interests that will come into play in the next step. So now that you're more aware of the elements that excite you, it's time to start stealing like an artist. Now, this comes from lessons that are taught in Austin Kleon's book called Steal Like an Artist, which I'll be referencing throughout the video. The idea is to collect resources based on the interests that you laid out in your mind map. So over time, you build a valuable library of references that you can revisit anytime that you're planning a project. So for example, on Instagram, I follow creators that align with my interests, and I'll save videos here and there that inspire me. And maybe I'll go on Pinterest sometimes and I create boards for graphic designs or concept art that catches my eye. In Steal Like an Artist, there's actually a chapter called Garbage In, Garbage Out that emphasizes the importance of collecting selectively. So the idea is to not hoard everything that you come across. Instead, you want to be a curator, and you only surround yourself with high quality content because what you collect will directly influence your work. So by focusing on gathering quality, you elevate the quality of your own creations. That is why I'm really excited that Frameset is sponsoring this video, because I've been using their library to collect inspirations for the past few months. So instead of saving random videos on social media or Googling images, Frameset lets me collect frames from professional commercials, music videos, and movies. I've actually noticed a significant improvement in my cinematography and color grading by referencing the stills that I saved on there, and I'm gonna show you how I do it. I usually start by typing in the style or mood that I'm looking for. Now I can also search by a director, a cinematographer, or even a brand. And when I find a frame that I like, I hit spacebar to enlarge it, and I get to admire it. And on the side, I can see which commercial it's from and even watch the whole video on Vimeo. So let me click in to see if I find more frames that I like from the same source. Ooh, that's a cool shot. So I'm gonna save this into a set. And whenever I'm planning my next video, I can open up my sets and look for the one that suits my idea the best. It's also a really great way of making pitch decks and creating mood boards, so you can reference professional content when you're sharing your ideas to your client. Now, my personal favorite feature is the similar tool, because I can upload a frame and it finds similar ones in their library. Check this out. With such an organized library, I never have trouble finding high quality frames to be inspired by, and my policy is to only take sponsors from platforms I believe can genuinely help you and that I genuinely use on a daily basis. So give it a try yourself, and they have a free plan, but if you decide to upgrade, you can use my discount code Herman Huang to get 10% off your first purchase. Thanks again, Frameset, for sponsoring this video. Now that you've gathered your inspiration, it's time to put them into action. So let's plan a project that you can start right away. Something that's easy and exciting, something with low commitment of time and effort. Now, if self-doubt is holding you back because you don't want to make bad work, and I get it, no one gets into filmmaking or video editing to make bad videos. Just remember that the goal here is to get it done. In The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, actually I have the book like right here, this guy. There is a chapter in there that talks about lowering the stakes of your project. So consider your pieces of work as small stepping stones where the goal is simply to complete them. All art is a work in progress. Each project is an opportunity to grow. So the purpose here isn't to create a viral video or to please your client. It's to express your interest and share your perspective. The more that you do, the faster you develop your style. All right, so this all sounds great and you're excited to start a project, but where do we start? We begin by copying the elements that inspire you. Remember, nothing is original. All creative work that you see and that you admire and engage with, they're all built on what came before it. So I used to be really afraid of copying others because it felt like plagiarism, but it's not. Plagiarism is using someone else's work and then pretending that it's your own. What we want to do is reverse engineer and learn from the elements that inspire us. For example, when I was rediscovering my video style and aesthetic, I made a bunch of low commitment Instagram posts in my free time. One of them was inspired by photos that I would see on Pinterest of pixel sorting, and I thought it looked really cool. So I wanted to give it a try, make a video version of it, and then give it a moodier look, and also kind of like wrap it in a weird narrative where it makes sense to have that effect being played. And these low commitment projects helped me experiment and learned whether or not it was really for me. Now, the second factor to consider is your limitations. So you might not have the same gear or knowledge or budget as your inspirations, but what you want to do is find your own solutions to these limitations to develop your creativity. So for instance, during the COVID pandemic, I really wanted to make a travel video, but obviously I couldn't travel due to the travel restrictions, and I didn't have money either. So instead, I filmed in my hometown and made a travel video about what I was familiar with. And it also helped me kind of explore the areas that I never really visited, even though I lived here all my life. And like I said, there was no money behind it, but I really wanted to film in this gritty sci-fi location to fit the theme of the video. So what I did was use miniatures and use my VFX knowledge to composite myself in the set. So what happened was I was aware of my limitations and I tried to be as resourceful as possible to make it happen regardless. The musician Jack White once said that telling yourself that you have all the time in the world, all the money in the world, and all the colors in the palette, anything you want, that just kills creativity. All right, here is where the magic happens, because what you're gonna do is take the elements from your mind map and start combining them. The farther away the elements are from each other and the more that you combine, the more unique it is to you. Because let's say that you only take one element, or you only take like one area of elements. If they're too close together, you're gonna risk coming off as a knockoff version of whoever you're trying to copy. Here's an example, and I might offend some people here, but when Sam Colder was making trending travel videos, it inspired so many creators to make their own travel videos, but they all just honestly look like cheaper version of Sam Colder. I do want to say that there's nothing wrong with copying your heroes because I believe that is the best way to learn. But when you're just copying from one, it won't get you closer to finding your own unique style. One of the first times that I started mixing a bunch of my different interests was actually for a client project. I combined my interest in drum and bass, cardistry, and video games to create a high-energy neon-lit montage video. Now, the problem with client projects is that you'll usually have to compromise to a certain degree to fulfill their marketing goals or their vision. But using paid projects to develop your style is a great way to make the journey financially sustainable. It's just a little bit harder, especially if you're first starting out. All right. So you made a video, one that's true to yourself and the things that you like. No matter how it turned out, you're already doing amazing. Because whether it took a week, a month, or even a year, you got it done. But that doesn't mean that you are. Taking the time to reflect is a crucial step for understanding what worked, what didn't, and how you can improve in the future. Let's first start by taking a look at what you like the most about your project. Now, what aspects were there that surprised you because they turned out even better than you expected? Now, for this project, I really liked the glowy motion graphics that I used, and I felt like it provided a unique touch. And since then, you can see that I use a lot of glowy motion graphics. For this pixel sorting effect, I felt like it brought some uniqueness to my glitchy style aesthetic. It was so effective that I incorporated it into a few of my favorite works. And when I was making this travel video, using miniatures to create a bigger world was an exciting discovery to me. It taught me that introducing physical elements brings a sense of realism to my composites. So the point here and what you want to do is keep note of the things that you liked, because these elements can be carried forward and remain consistent in your future projects. Next, we want to consider where we faced challenges or just flat out failed. Was it a complete failure, or did we manage to fall forward and actually learn something valuable from it? One of my favorite designers, Chris Do, wrote a book called Pocket Full of Dough, and he wrote in a chapter that failure is a tuition that you pay for future success. Each failure brings you closer towards a breakthrough. That's why when it's a personal project or a project of low commitment, there are fewer consequences to failure. So I believe in creating a safe space for yourself to fail, and where you fall short is often where you find your style. In a chapter from Steal Like an Artist, Austin shares how the basketball star, Kobe Bryant, admitted that all his moves were stolen from watching tapes of his heroes. But when he stole them, he realized that he couldn't accurately pull them off one-to-one because he had a different body type than his heroes.
Yeah, he was blessed to have that big old booty. I don't have a big old booty, so I can't, I gotta use other means to create space.
So he adapted the moves to make them his own. In a chapter from The Creative Act, Rick shares how the band The Ramones thought they were making catchy pop music. They didn't realize that they were inventing punk rock and became influential through their shortcoming. I personally fail at something every time I work on a project, and it's just become a natural part of the process. And something that I really wish someone told me in the beginning of my career is that where you are and where your heroes are, the process of you attempting to be like them is where you discover what makes you special. We are now at the final step, and arguably the most important one, repetition. After your first project, you might discover some of the elements that you like in your own work, but you haven't found your unique style yet. By your second project, you start incorporating the lessons that you learned from your first one and, more elements that you like, but your style has just begun to start taking shape. From my experience and from observing other creatives, focusing on creating a high volume of work is key to not only improving your craft, but also shaping your style. I believe that finding what's unique to you is a distilling process that takes time, experimentation, and persistence. As you continue to create, you'll start noticing patterns in your work. Lean into those patterns, because with each iteration, these elements become a core part of your unique style. For example, my latest passion project is a video about making coffee, which is probably the most unoriginal thing to do as a YouTuber. But even after 16 years of shooting and editing videos, this project is just another stepping stone in refining my style. I still stole from my heroes, embraced limitations, and blended everything that I liked to hopefully bring you a coffee video that feels like it's unique to me. And you can check that out right over here. If it's important to you to stand out, increase engagement in your work, and find fulfillment in what you create, start now.